gonna start this video with like a ugh. Ugh. Powerlessness. When the Enneagram talks about powerlessness, I could not relate. I don't pursue power. I don't walk away from powerlessness. I do not see it. I don't interact with it. I'm not bothered. That's cool. The other Enneagram 8s are bothered by that, but that's not a problem for me. That's not my thing. And then I got married, and then life got life-ish, and I went down to my little days of spiritual direction school that I'm taking, and I'm minding my own business. I'm like laughing at the stuff and having a good time, and I'm doing my work. I'm all in. I'm being present, and I know that what we have coming up at the end of the day is that someone's going to practice spiritual direction on me, and I'm going to practice spiritual direction on someone else. Great, I love that. I know what I want to show up with. I think we did this exercise of being present to ourselves and where we were. And I had watched, and when we went through the 2 weeks, and we said, okay, what have your thoughts been? And we did the whole thing, what are your feelings, what are your body, blah, 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 blah. And we went through the exercise, and we talked about it afterwards, and as I reflected back on the exercise, I realized that I had 0 thoughts. I had been a force, I had made great choices, but I had not sat and contemplated thinking thoughts. And maybe for those of you who are 8s, who are life has been life-ish, you can understand what that means when I say like I wasn't thinking, I was being a force. I hope some of you out there get that, but it's a different type of movement that I do, and I'm familiar with it. It feels familiar to me. And it's not stupid, it's intelligent, it's intuitive, and I've set up my life well to be able to do that sometimes. So, and then I was like, okay, well, let's think, okay, let's look at like the feelings, and then backtrack behind those feelings, what are the thoughts, and then backtrack behind the feelings. Like, I just did this little exercise. Bear with me as I process out loud with you. And you know what came up at the end of it? Is that I felt powerless. And honest to goodness, it's the very first time I've ever noticed that feeling. And it was gross. Like, gross is the only word that comes to mind. Like it turns my stomach even now thinking about it. And I was like, okay, that's great. Well, I'll take that to my little spiritual direction time with what's his face, and it's going to be great, right? So I'm meeting, he's an Enneagram 4, and I already know what I'm going to come with. I'm going to talk about this, and this is what we're going to do. It's going to be great. I am prepared to be powerful in my powerless conversation. And I say, like, he said, well, where do you experience powerlessness in your life? And I say, I don't. Like, I just don't experience that. Like, I am very comfortable with not having power. We talked about this. I'm very comfortable with not having power over other people, but I myself do not feel the sensation of powerlessness. That doesn't come up for me. So this was a really big surprise to me that it did. And he said, well, he didn't say it this way, I'm going to say it this way though. Where did you notice, if you look back, when you got rid of powerlessness at some point, where do you see undeserved grace? Where do you see the Holy Spirit in getting rid of powerlessness? Oh, you want to get effed up. Have somebody ask you that when you're really doing your best work to be vulnerable. I shed many tears and could not answer the question. I'm sure for all of you, I'm not sure, I have no idea. I know for me, I got here at a very young age, and became very powerful very quickly. I became power. It wasn't that I felt powerful. I just became a power. And some people might call that like an adult. Some people might call that a boss. Some people might call that the one in charge, the squeaky wheel. But I became power. I became what I needed to be to go through a season. But now I'm here. And now I'm like, oh, powerlessness is real and awful. And people feel this. I'm so sorry, all y'all. I went to an Al-Anon meeting because I qualify, and I remembered my walk and my familiar foundation, the beloved as is. In that meeting, I remembered that. And it hurt. It really hurt to hold powerlessness and beloved as is in one space. Beloved as is, even in this. Where was that? Where was that undeserved grace and that transition to power? A way I would describe it is I became blind to grace. Yeah, that's actually true. But I became blind to powerlessness. And as a blind person, I moved through the world hurting people unintentionally, speaking of what sight is while being blind, walking into walls, determined to go through. When if I had my sight, I could have walked around. Blind to the force I became, avoiding the feeling of potential powerlessness, animated and motivated to stay blind. Ugh. It sounds limited and hard, but I know, and maybe you have experienced as well, I looked good. I got a lot done. Intensity drives, power moves. I'm actually very curious about you guys watching this video, how many like amazing things you've gotten done in 2020. While I hear other Enneagram numbers being like, oh no, it's really hard, it's really sad. And I'm just like, you know what I did this year? Possibly my best year yet. But I'm not. I'm curious. One of my like consistent breath prayers is like, Lord, have mercy. Because I know I'm gonna need some mercy. I might not be able to see that I'm powerless, but I know that I need mercy. And it's interesting that I'm counting this as the gift of more mercy in this season and in this time to go, oh, I'm powerless, and I'm the beloved as is. Bless you in seeing, bless you in being animated and motivated by undeserved grace. Bless you in the transition to neediness and weakness and all that shit that's